Well, thanks. Good morning, everybody. I think I know everybody in this room, which is amazing, which is fantastic. And my name's Susanna. I'm a compulsive eater. I weigh and measure 3 meals a day off the grey sheet. I write them down and commit them to my sponsor. I eat nothing in between, and I eat what I say I'm going to eat, no matter what. And abstinence and sobriety are the most important things to me today. And my abstinence date is the 15th of February, 2020. And there are no absolute newcomers in this room. So I thought what I'd do is just talk about I was asked to give a talk earlier this week about the tools of recovery. And I thought I might just talk about that again, because it was well received and not recorded. So everyone was annoyed about that at the end. Well, not annoyed, but, you know. And when I look at the tools of recovery, I think, oh, well, my mantra's a tool. And actually, what I realized is that the mantra actually contains all the tools of recovery in what people say in their mantra. So for me, it is all in the mantra. You know, I say my name, I say what I am. And that's step one. You know, my name is Susanna and I'm a compulsive eater. That's step one. That's admission and acceptance. But as it was pointed out to me, it's also actually humility, as defined on page 58 of the 12 and 12, which defines humility as a clear recognition of what and who we really are, followed by sincere attempts to become what we could be. So, you know, there's 3 tools there just in the first sentence: admission, acceptance, and humility, and step 1, so 4 really. I weigh and measure 3 meals a day off the copyrighted grey sheet. You know, weighing and measuring, about, you know, there's the tools there: balance, scale, the word enough, the word moderation, having enough to eat. You know, and if I'm out, which I'm rarely out, but, you know, if people ask me why I'm eating the way I do, I say, well, you know, I have an eating disorder and I have to make sure that I get enough to eat, and I have to make sure that I don't eat too much. And this is what I do. But what I find with the weighing and measuring is that it's not just weighing and measuring my food. It spills out into everyday life and how I conduct myself in the world in general. So my life becomes more balanced. I can see when enough is enough in other areas of my life. The non-scale victories that we experience, as well as the scale victories. You know, I came from a position of overweight, and I have you know, so that manifestation of my compulsive eating story is you know, been completely ameliorated. But I still need to continue with this, because it will only ever come back if I don't continue to abstain from foods that we don't eat. So balance, scale, enoughness, and moderation. I weigh those 3 meals a day off the grey sheet. So, you know, I have to take the grey sheet and eat what's suggested on the grey sheet and nothing more, which is about, for me, it's about acceptance. I have to accept that there are some things on the grey sheet which probably could be on the grey sheet but aren't on the grey sheet, you know. And my sponsor says to me, well, Susanna, you know, you just have to practice a bit of acceptance around that. It's not on the grey sheet and that's the end of it. And, you know, there are plenty of things that are on the grey sheet which are absolutely fine. And I have not found, really, by and large, that I'm missing out on any food that I can't have that's not on the grey sheet. There's also the concept of the allergies as well. So I'm allergic to certain foods, and the allergy manifests itself as a craving for more of the same sort of food. And just like an allergy, I won't become unallergic to it if I just don't have it for 20 years. You know, if I was allergic to penicillin, I wouldn't be going to the doctor saying, oh, well, I haven't had any amoxicillin for 20 years. Let's give it a go. You know, I'm just allergic to these things, and that's that. And I think that for me, particularly that analogy really, really chimed with me when I was getting sober in Alcoholics Anonymous, that, you know, I'm always going to be allergic to it, and that's not very interesting. It's about as interesting as somebody being allergic to shellfish. I mean, you just sort of go, oh, all right then, and that's the end of it. So acceptance of what's on the grey sheet, the understanding that I'm allergic to all the things that we don't eat, the discipline of sticking to the grey sheet and what's required in terms of the weights and the food groups that we eat at every meal. The accuracy, it's 4.0, 8.0, 12.0, not 3.9, not 4.1. And, you get some days when you just blob a load of stuff onto your morning fruit and it's bang on, it's like bang on the 0.0. And that's really great. And I feel God there. But most of the time you're kind of picking out bits and adding bits back in and picking out just to get that 0.0. And then what I find is that once you've got the 0.0, you give it 2 heartbeats and then you press the 0 button. Otherwise you get this electronic drift and it starts sort of going one side or the other. So I just hesitate very slightly to make sure that it stays on the 0.0, but then, I either take it off the scale or I tear it. So yeah, and just sticking to the plan, doing what one's told. There's actually also lots of other advice on the actual sheet, the grey sheet itself, and one of the things that I like is that it says you can choose to become responsible for yourself. And I love that term. I can choose to become responsible for myself, which puts the ball back in my court and the control back in my life. And so there's that tool of choice in grey sheet. Not only have we got the choice between all sorts of wonderful foods on grey sheets, but we've got the choice to become responsible for our own abstinence and our own lives. So I write them down and I commit them to my sponsor. And, the tools there for me are about accountability, sharing, reaching out, support, and combating isolation. Of course, all addiction is a disease of isolation and denial. And I think grey sheet is really, really very hard over about combating isolation. And that really comes out in the mantra as well. And mentoring and also commitment, committing your food, but committing to the program as well, committing to doing what's suggested. Is all in that sentence about writing it down and committing it to my sponsor. And there's plenty of research to suggest that if you have a partner or somebody that you say, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z, then statistically you are much more likely to do X, Y, or Z, and that's why people take vows of chastity, vows of abstinence, vows of sobriety. If they tell somebody else they're going to do it, then they're much more likely to do it. I eat what I say I'm going to eat. I eat nothing in between. Again, it's the commitment and the clarity of just eating at meal times, and you don't have to say anything to people in between. If they're having a snack and they say, oh, do you want something? And I say, well, no, thank you. And they say, oh, why not? Why not have this, have this? And I say, well, I don't eat between meals. It's not rocket science. And actually, that was the refrain that we were probably all brought up with, don't eat between meals. I remember that very clearly. So again, the lovely thing about grey sheet is that none of it's rocket science. The food isn't rocket science. The logic isn't rocket science. It's very simple and straightforward. And I've never been belly hungry on this program. My sponsor said to me early on, if you get hungry between meals, it's not belly hunger, it's emotional hunger. And very quickly I realized that I had been stuffing my emotions down with food. I'd been using food to deal with my feelings, and I really hadn't dealt with any of my stuff, for years. I mean, I'm embarrassed to say almost that I was sort of 21 years sober when I got into grey sheet. And I realize now that, I'd done the main stuff in AA early on in my recovery, the 12-step work. I'd done my step 4, 5, and 6. It was absolutely fantastic. I cleared away a lot of the wreckage of my past, and I was able to move forwards in a way that I would never have been able to do if I hadn't done the steps and I hadn't really committed to that recovery early on in my sobriety. But, somebody said to me, yeah, well, AA took care of the kind of adolescent and adult stuff, but the real child stuff, the real stuff, which is the root of all of this, you know, that's where Grey Sheet comes in. Because of course I had food in my life before I had anything else. I didn't have a cup of caffeinated coffee. I didn't have a cigarette as I came out of the womb. I didn't have a drink, but the first thing I would have had would have been food, you know, either from a bottle or from my mother, you know. And food is the thing. Food is the really serious childhood stuff, all the unresolved shit. And I've grown so much in my recovery since I've been in Grey Sheet. No matter what, you know, I've been through a lot of this year, as people know, and it's amazed me that actually it's pulled me 10 minutes, is that okay? It's pulled me closer to abstinence, if nothing else. You know, life has been pretty chaotic and, well, complete turmoil a lot of the time, and remains so actually. But I have 3 times in the day where I can just, you know, clear my head and do what I need to do. And it's like having 3 stepping stones in a torrent of a river, you know, just to get me across from one end of the day to the other. I even cut a date short on Wednesday. I said, oh, I'm awfully sorry. I've got to get home and have my supper. Bye. So I was quite proud of myself with that. But the most important thing is that this is the most important thing to me, and it's the prioritization. It's prioritizing my abstinence and my recovery over everything else. And that can be difficult sometimes because other things come along and, you know, which are much more interesting. But this is my priority because I can see how much it does for me. So just in my mantra, I think the tools of recovery that I identified just by saying my mantra at the beginning of every meeting, I listed them down here: admission, acceptance, humility, balance, scale, moderation, enough, allergies, discipline, commitment, accuracy, consistency, continuity, obedience and following rules, choice, learning to love myself, accountability, sharing, reaching out, connecting, support, giving and receiving support, combating isolation, commitment, understanding myself, prioritization, you know, and bearing in mind that this is a short mantra which takes me 15 seconds to say, that is an incredible number of tools which are just embodied in that mantra. I've had a lot of sponsees who kind of say to me, oh, well, I don't know, I can't say my mantra, you know, it doesn't mean anything, I can't say it, I feel self-conscious, it's, you know, I don't. But that is what you're saying in your mantra. What I'm saying in my mantra is all the tools that I need for my recovery. I have it written down on a Post-it note and stuck to the side of my computer. You know, I can't just say it off the top of my head. Like, it doesn't come naturally. I have it written down there. And when I'm in meetings, you know, and I'm on my laptop or my iPad, I still get kind of muddled up with my mantra because it's not written down on a Post-it note. So, you know, I would suggest anybody who's having difficulty saying their mantra at the beginning of a meeting to just write it down, put it on the side of the computer and read it, you know. But in all of these things, really, I think what comes out of it is the 3 Gs, which I identified, well, not I identified, but, you know, which I've got written down, which is growth, gratitude and God. And I've always loved the acronym of God, which is Group of Drunks, you know, and it is the group. It is the group that is the spiritual foundation for me of this program, of any 12-step program. And you're all here today, and it's great to see you all. And thank you for being my God, my group of drunks. I don't know what word would begin with D that would describe us as compulsive eaters rather than alcoholics. But anyway,
Susanna.
Thank you, Sarah. Growth, gratitude, and God. And you know, I could say that another tool that comes out in the mantra actually is prayer, because this mantra is like saying a little prayer at the beginning of every meeting. So I thank you very much for your time, and thank you for letting me talk about what for me are the tools of my abstinence, and how important the mantra is for me and why it's important. Thank you.